Today, I'll be showing you how to overcome the fear that keeps people working even when they're ready to retire. Over my years of helping clients transition into retirement, I've developed specific strategies to help them move past this fear and into a confident retirement. And that's exactly why I'm making this video today, to show you how to break free from this mindset that's keeping you trapped in a job that you're ready to leave. So let's get right into it. The question is, what keeps people working when they could retire? When I speak with clients, the biggest roadblock to retirement isn't actually insufficient savings or knowing their target number. It's actually the fear of the unknown. And that fear is incredibly common and makes total sense. I see it all the time in my practice. People who have diligently saved for decades, who've run the numbers, who financially could retire tomorrow, but who stay chained to their desks because of what-if scenarios that often never materialize. The truth is, this retirement hesitation is keeping thousands of financially ready pre-retirees stuck in the workforce unnecessarily. And really, I get it, because for most of us, the discomfort we know feels better than the potential discomfort of the unknown. But at the end of the day, we all have to stop work, by choice or by force. Now, at the heart of this problem is a fundamental misunderstanding about what creates retirement security. Many people have been conditioned to focus exclusively on hitting specific account balance targets rather than understanding how their accumulated assets actually translate to sustainable income. This creates a perpetual moving target where enough constantly seems to be just out of reach, regardless of how much someone's already saved. And the consequences of this fear are very real and often irreversible. I've worked with too many clients who delayed retirement for years based on this fear, only to later realize that they could have retired much earlier. And these are the years of freedom and bodily health that you simply can't get back. It's not just about money. It's about missed opportunities to spend time with grandchildren, pursue passions, or travel while your health is still optimal. So if it's not actually the money that's keeping most people from retiring, then what exactly is going on? In my experience, working with pre-retirees, there are typically four specific fears that create this retirement paralysis. Here's what's interesting. These fears persist regardless of account balances because they're psychological rather than financial. And understanding these fears is crucial because they are likely affecting your retirement decisions right now, whether you realize it or not. The longer these fears go unaddressed, the more retirement years you potentially sacrifice unnecessarily. And these fears don't just affect a small segment of pre-retirees. They are pretty much universal in my experience. I've seen clients with $500,000 and clients with $5 million, and they share the same fears. They cross all professions, backgrounds, geographic locations, and that tells me that there's something deeper happening that we need to address head on. So the first major fear I see consistently is what I call the unknown duration problem. This is essentially the fear of outliving your money, which stems from the fundamental uncertainty about how long your retirement will last. And this fear is particularly challenging because unlike other financial goals like saving for a house or college, retirement doesn't have a fixed time frame. It could last 10 years and it could last 40 years. And that uncertainty creates a large amount of anxiety. Pre-retirees respond to this by continuously pushing back their retirement date, thinking just one more year will solve this uncertainty. And it never does. I recently worked with a couple, both 67, who kept delaying retirement because they were worried about potentially living into their late 90s like some of their relatives. And this was despite having over $2 million saved, more than enough for the lifestyle they wanted to live. And this fear kept them working in stressful jobs that they no longer enjoyed. The irony is that their continued work was actually reducing the quality of the healthy years they did have, all to protect against a worst-case longevity scenario. The second fear is what I call market timing worry. And this is a major concern that you will retire right before a major market downturn, which could potentially damage your retirement security. This fear keeps retirees working during bull markets because they're waiting for a correction, and then it keeps them working again during bear markets because they want to recover their losses before they retire. It's a no-win situation where there's never a good time to retire, regardless of the market's condition. I've seen numerous clients who delayed retiring in 2017, 18, and 19 because they were waiting for the inevitable market correction. And then when that correction came in 2020, those same people then delayed retirement to wait for the recovery. And now that markets have recovered, they're again waiting for the next correction. And that cycle just continues indefinitely, costing years of retirement freedom and health. The third fear is the healthcare cost uncertainty. And this is the worry that unpredictable medical expenses will devastate retirement savings, especially long-term care costs. This fear is particularly powerful because healthcare stories are emotionally charged and they're widely shared. And almost everyone has heard a story about someone whose retirement was financially ruined by medical costs. And this creates an outsized perception of the probability of the risk that can paralyze retirement decision-making, especially for people who are generally healthy and may not have put healthcare planning in proper perspective. I worked with a physician who, despite understanding healthcare better than most, delayed his retirement by 5 years specifically due to long-term care concerns. The irony was that his continued high-stress work was negatively impacting his health, potentially decreasing his life expectancy, but also potentially increasing his healthcare cost needs, all while he sacrificed years of retirement freedom that he'll never get back. And the fourth fear, which is often the least discussed but equally powerful, is an identity transition fear. This is the apprehension about who you'll be and what purpose you'll have once you're no longer defined by the work you do. This fear manifests as continued work, not primarily for financial reasons, but because of uncertainty about how to replace the structure, social connection, purpose, and identity that work provides. Many pre-retirees subconsciously use financial concerns as a socially acceptable way to avoid confronting the deeper identity question. I recently worked with a successful business owner who had more than enough saved to retire comfortably, but who struggled with the prospect of no longer being in control. His financial concerns were actually masking a deeper worry about his purpose, his status, and the stability in retirement. Once we addressed this directly, his financial anxiety largely disappeared. And what makes these fears so powerful is how they work together to create a perfect storm of retirement hesitation. The unknown duration problem makes you want more savings. The market timing worry makes you never feel like it's the right time. Healthcare concerns create this moving target of having enough money. And identity fears use financial worries as a cover for deeper transitions you may be avoiding. Now, real quickly, if you're suffering from some of these fears I've just described and you're feeling uncertain about retirement and how much you truly need to retire, head to the description below this video where you can claim a free spot at my complimentary webinar this week, where I'll cover exactly how to optimize your retirement plan. Okay, so these 4 fears: unknown duration problem, market timing, healthcare cost uncertainty, the identity transition, they rob thousands of people of retirement years they worked hard to earn. And I've seen too many clients who delayed retirement based on these fears, only to later realize that they could have retired years before. What's particularly tragic is what gets sacrificed while these fears keep people working unnecessarily. I'm talking about the early active retirement years when health is typically strongest, grandchildren are young, and energy for travel and hobbies is highest. So how do we break free from those fears? How do you gain the confidence to retire when you're financially ready rather than working extra years unnecessarily? The answer isn't simply saving more, and neither is the answer to address each fear individually. Rather, I believe it's to develop a framework that helps you address the core fear underneath all of those retirement fears. It's the fear of being surprised. See, the unknown duration problem, the market timing problem, uncertain future healthcare costs, and even the retirement identity problem are all manifestations of the worst nightmare in retirement, which is being surprised by something you haven't prepared for. And the financial services industry doesn't want you to know this, because as long as you cower in fear and don't actually retire, brokerage companies continue to rake in fees on your growing untouched pool of savings. The government gets to continue pulling in tax money off of your incomes. You hop onto Social Security later and Medicare later, and ultimately the entire financial blob benefits at your expense. Now, fortunately, these problems are solvable in the same way we desensitize ourselves to many other areas of our lives where we might end up surprised. What we do is we expose ourselves to micro versions of the problem repeatedly over extended periods of time so that we become familiar with what we might do to solve them when the crisis occurs. And I call this retirement contingency planning. It's the process of building out a set of tiered emergency plans, because not all emergencies are of the same magnitude. Some emergencies creep up on us slowly over time, and some emergencies pop up out of nowhere with significant magnitude and force. The easiest example of this would be market corrections of varying sizes, but also timelines. A market correction of 10% is very different in its effect on your retirement savings than one of 30%. And a 30% market correction, like the one that occurred in 2020, is very different from the lost decade from 2000 to 2009. From a practical perspective, planning for these things is actually simpler than we might expect. Fundamentally, there are 2 things we can control in retirement. We can control how much we spend, and we can control how we're going to behave in response to scenarios that unfold. Modern Guardrails, which is a dynamic spending strategy that we use for all clients in our practice, gives us guidance about our future spending behaviors. Modern Guardrails and other dynamic spending strategies tell us how much and when we should decrease our spending in order to preserve our assets for the unknown emergencies that might occur. Therefore, they can help us claim control of our spending in a logical, predictable manner. Then, we combine guardrails with rigorous thought exercises around the emergencies that might occur during our lifespan. We talk those out in detail and we visualize what spending changes we might need to make, how those impact our lifestyle, what they might do about our expectations, so that we desensitize to them in advance of those events occurring. Now, this video is a bit of a departure from my normal style in that here at this point, I could include a very tactical example showing a guardrails plan, showing the math, and showing the spreadsheets. But as I was planning this video, I decided to keep things simple because sometimes it's equally or maybe even more important for our financial plans to be discussions about psychology as they are to be composed of numbers and math. At the end of the day, your retirement success, specifically your ability to execute under stress, is directly proportional to how frequently you talk out and face up to your contingency scenarios. In many ways, focusing on the numbers and looking at nifty retirement softwares and illustrations becomes a distraction from what should be the priority, which is what I call war drilling your retirement emergencies. See, in the military, it would be really easy to spend 1,000,000 hours on the gun range to become a top-tier marksman. But if you never do war games, which is where you get in the trenches and have someone do non-lethal shooting back at you so you can see how you'd handle the pressure, the best marksman can become a blubbering crybaby when the actual battle comes. So I promise not to do this often because I do like showing the mechanics and the tactics, and I do believe those things are important. But for this video here, I just wanted to entreat you all, those of you that are watching, to put more time into the retirement war games. Spend more time talking to your partner, your kids, your advisor, your planner about your retirement war games. Ask the questions. What do we think we should do if the market corrects 10%? What about 20%? 30%. Discuss it, then document it, and discuss it again and again, and drill it until your partner knows, and your kids know, and your planner knows. And do this for each of the retirement emergencies that keep you up at night. And I promise you that if you do that, you will feel braver and stronger and more confident to pull the trigger and retire, and then reclaim years and time and physical health that you cannot get back. Remember, the purpose of you saving all those years was to delay your gratification, not to deny your gratification. If you never enjoy the savings you worked so hard for in this life, then you haven't delayed gratification, you've denied yourself gratification. And the only parties that benefit from that are the ones that make money off of you living in fear of your money. So with that said, if you'd like to see the framework that we use in my financial planning practice to do our retirement war games with our clients, just click on the link in the description below to register for a completely free class that I'll be hosting this week on how to optimize your retirement. Thank you as always for your time and attention. See you in the next video.